I hear you there. Yeah, I did 2 on Saturday. And it was just like,
Were you doing the interviewing or being interviewed?
I was being interviewed. So I was
It's
being
never.
interviewed. Awesome. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the channel, and special thank you for joining me again, Kia. I appreciate it so much to be placing you back in the hot seat. How are you doing today?
I'm really good. How are you, Trisha?
I am doing fantastic. I'm just relaxing after this weekend. This weekend was a bit hectic.
Oh, what do you have on?
Um, this weekend was getting everything ready for the pre-order of the release that I just did for Chains of Rome, which is my first historical romance novel that's come out in a couple of years. So yeah, it was kind of interesting and kind of fun, and so I was doing that all weekend and getting that all organized, and now it's out, it's live on a couple of channels for pre-order.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. You have a release coming up here fairly quickly too, don't you?
I do. I feel like the same pressure as you. Like, it was a hectic weekend. My goodness, my week they've just been crazy. As I think it's 2 weeks now, and the countdown is on, and it's a lot, but I'm so excited at the same time. So it's just frantic energy everywhere, getting it out, making sure everyone sees that it's coming out, because this has been an anticipated release for the last 3 years. So I'm just making sure everyone that's been following the series knows it's coming out. It's just been crazy.
Now, what is this book that is coming out? I know what it is, but tell our viewers.
So this is Token Phantom. It is the 4th book in the Token Huntress series. For those who haven't followed the series, Token Huntress is basically a vampire romance dystopian set 300 years in the future. So the world is very different. It's in disarray. And you follow the main characters, the main huntress being Esmore, an 18-year-old token huntress who is basically a primary leader. She's very Sasha Fierce. And then she meets basically the love of her life, who is a vampire who's 400 years old. And so it's very much enemies to lovers. And then everything that unfolds after that is just basically her world going into disarray with his, and them trying to fight through everything together. But the series gets dark, so it does question a lot about humanity. What would happen if we, in certain degrees of war? What are the ramifications and consequences to this? It's got a little bit of global warming in there as well. So there's a lot of just questioning how people handle certain situations, what triggers they have, and slowly watching the main character come undone in a way, even though she's so physically strong and powerful and has all these strengths. In the 4th book, in Token Phantom, it's really where she's coming undone. She can't handle everything that's happening, and she's been thrown into this war that was never hers to begin with. And I think that it just questions a lot of things, and I really enjoy exploring that with her. So that is the basis of Token Phantom. I'm writing the 5th one at the moment, so it's even like getting deeper and crazier from there. But and I actually have that due for the editor the same week, 2 days after the release of Token Phantom. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. That's Token Phantom. So if you haven't started Token Huntress, give it a go. Let me know what you think. But yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah, that series is on my to be read list. I will be honest, it's growing. I don't have time to read lately, but I wish I did. Okay, so what was the inspiration originally for this series?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a weird one. I had a dream, but it was quite honestly because I had always sworn when I started writing young adult, I said I will never write a vampire series after after Twilight exploded and there was millions of different vampire stories. I said, absolutely not. It's been saturated. It's been overdone. I'm not doing it. And then I had a dream, which for anyone who has read the first book will see when Esmore wakes up in the Vampire Council in Chase's room. and there's rows and rows of bobblehead dolls because that's what he collects over the years. So that is like a staple for him to keep his humanity in a way. And so it's super eerie, and these bobblehead dolls are clicking, and she's like, what is happening? And then Chase enters the room. And so from that, and his character originally was, it is quirky, but I had to dial him down a little bit because he was quite eccentric. But from there, I was like, this is a really interesting world. And so then from there, it just started going and going. And the next thing I had a book, and then I had a series, and I was like, okay, I'll write this book. But I wanted to make sure that it was different. It wasn't the sparkly vampires of Twilight. It was the dark. It was the evil. It was the lust. It was, everything that I feel like vampires should be. So yeah. So that was the inspiration, the dream with weird bobblehead dolls.
Awesome. And I think that's so funny that you should say that you want them to be different than the sparkly happy vampires that we're so used to. Because to me, vampires are supposed to be dark. They're supposed to be edgy, and so with your characters, were any of them actually kind of based off of someone else? Like a real person that you have known, or were they just kind of a part of the imagination that came to life?
So I think for Esmore, the main character, I was heavily influenced from Celine from Underworld. So when I think of a badass like vampire hunter, I think of her straight away. In regards to people that I know, yes and no, none of the characteristics came over. It was a time when I'd been building my readership for the last 2 years, and I had a lot of really good friends who'd been following my previous works. So I wanted to put as many of their names into my characters as I could. So I think there's easily 10 of my readers' names in there. And so it didn't necessarily adopt their characteristics into it, but I wanted to share that world with them a little bit more. So I did use their names.
Well, that's cool. So, you've been working on this series for quite some time, and the book number 4, Token Huntress, comes out in April, I believe. So when is book 5 going to be coming out?
3 months after. I have made a plan this year because I am very apologetic that it took so long between book 3, because it did end on a cliffhanger as well, which is even worse. So I really want to finish this series, which is why last year I went back to the start, and as you can see, I've got new covers, and I went through the series again, just because my writing has changed, my style. I've fined it down a little bit more to when I was younger. So I wanted to put that same quality in it. So I went over the first 3. That way too, I knew where I was at. I was in the same headspace again. And then I started writing book 4, book 5, book 6. So the plan is for, obviously this one's coming out April 6th. So, and then 3 months after will be the 5th. And then 3 months after that will be the 6th one and the conclusion. There may be a series come off of that, but that's all I'll say on that for now.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I completely understand that. It's so easy to kind of think of that, having that spin-off, and I'm sure there are going to be fans who are going to be going, oh, please, please, please. So book 5, book 6 is of course the conclusion of the series. Throughout the whole series, what was the biggest challenge that you actually had in writing this series? Was it the world building, the characters, finding the time to write?
I actually found hardship writing book 4, and I think that was because I've always known where I was going to take the story, but I think because I had left a bit of a time gap between book 3 and book 4, I really struggled with figuring out where I'd left it off and where I was going with it. So that one I did have a bit of a grip because there was a lot of pressure. I wanted to execute it well. And because the main character has so many shifts emotionally, there's a lot of character development involved. So I wanted to make sure I executed that well and it wasn't too jumpy in the progress. So I did find that shift, especially with the fourth one. There's a lot of new characters coming into it. There's a new species that's been brought into it. And a part of me questioned if I hadn't added those in, the story could have been more simplified. I think that's what I found challenging. This has been the longest series I've ever written.
Yep.
So the complexity of the story and being consistent with it, that's what I struggled with. But after book 4, now writing book 5, it's going very fluently. And I think it was just that push of really knowing where my characters were and why they had to be there.
Okay, I can understand that. I mean, and I think when you write and then you have a gap in between books, sometimes you lose part of that, part of the story because you have that gap, right? So sometimes you have to kind of go back and relearn the characters, relearn the story a little bit more before you can finish writing that story. Even if you have a vision for it, the vision doesn't always work well to bridge the gap, so to speak. So now you've got other books out. Do you have anything coming out this year that's unrelated to this series, or is your focus this year just making sure that you've got books from this series out?
Yeah, so I do. So the focus for now is Token Hunter series, but readers are going to love this as well. I also am going back to my Phantom Wolf series, the same thing. I had left a significant year gap between it. And that was something that I learned as an author, not to get so distracted by all the new stories I wanted to write and finish off series first. So that is what I'm doing. My series Phantom Wolf, which is very much a beloved series, it is... it's dark, but it's a bit of a Romeo-Juliet kind of story in a fantasy setting with sort of human-wolves hybrids. But that one's a very healing book, I want to say, too. So I'm excited to go back into that. I am going to rewrite it as I have done with the Token Huntress series because I was 18, 19 when I wrote this first book. So my writing has changed significantly. And then new covers for that. And then I'll be writing book 3 and 4, and they will be releasing at the end of the year also. So that is the plan for this year. So lots of books.
So now, when we last spoke, you had mentioned that you had pushed yourself so hard that you would wind up having burnout from setting unrealistic expectations of yourself. Do you feel that you're able to with the goals that you've set, do you feel that you're comfortable with that, or are you concerned about burning out again?
Yeah, so yes and no. Right now, obviously, it's a lot in these 2 weeks because I have a deadline and a release coming up. So there isn't much me time involved. However, that's what a lot of people do. My problem was that I was consistently doing that with about 4 hours sleep. So that's how I led to burnout. I have implemented since things that I can make sure I'm not being a workaholic. So I am taking time out for myself. But it's a realistic goal for me now because not only am I writing full time, but also I have accountability partner. So every day I will hop on with a author friend called Margaret, and we will do writing sprints. So we hop on for X amount of minutes, see how many words we can smash out. And so my daily count is like 5,000 words. And, that may be 2 to 4 hours of writing right there. And that's great because it means that I can accomplish these goals realistically. And also I made sure to remain focused. I think what burnt me out last time was also trying to do all the marketing, trying to have my hand in every pot that I could. And it's more so realizing not everything's going to happen now. So I just need to keep the ball going at a steady pace. And this is a consistent pace for me. But if I do feel like I'm tiring, I'm happy to take a little bit of time out now too, because I know what the ramifications are if I do burn out. And it's a lot longer than having a week off. So
yes. Burnout can be months, years, depending. I'm excited. I'm really excited because now this series, the Token series, are you doing just ebooks? Are you doing prints? Are you going to be doing audiobooks for these?
All of it, all of the above. So obviously ebook is already for pre-order. Paperback has just come up as well. Audiobook I'm actually going to look into investing next year. So once the series is done, and then again talking about focus, I want to make sure I focus on Fan and Wolf. And then next year I will be looking into audiobook, which I'm super excited about. So I've already got the audiobook covers and everything. So we're sort of stepping towards that.
Sweet. That must be exciting for you to plan all of that, because you are a true indie author. You started indie and you've continued indie, so you've kind of got all that whole path by yourself without a publisher to help you. So you must be super stoked to be able to look at the game plan that you've got now and see not necessarily the finish line, but see the end product in sight.
Yeah, I think, as I said, when I first started the indie path, I was young. I was, I think, 19, 20 when I published my first book. And so a lot of the first years were a lot of mistakes, because I was a young woman, I was a girl. I didn't know what business was. At the time I was like exploiting my passion and having the time of my life until I came and realized it was a business. So I think now it's very different. I could never, because I was always in work mode, I never really reflected and appreciated all the effort and work that I put in, because I was like, there's more to be done. Yeah. But now that I am more accountable and I can reflect on that, I am so proud of what I've achieved. And I'm so happy being able to realistically project and say, okay, in this year, I'm going to accomplish this, and make sure not to get distracted by anything else in that. And that, for me, that's a big thing, like not getting distracted by other projects. So I am super proud and happy with what I've created. Yeah.
So you mentioned not getting distracted by the shiny new projects. How many projects do you have on the go at any one time?
Why are you calling me out like this? I have a lot. So again, it's coming down to making sure I'm focused and consistent. As it is, obviously, I'm writing this book and I'm focusing on the release. As I have my writing goals, I've committed myself 3 months for a turnover every book. That's including obviously writing it and edits, etc., and then the marketing that goes towards that. I do once a week. I do my own interviews for a YouTube channel as well, which I love, and that's how we actually met. And I also do every Sunday, I co-host a podcast as well called What the Book. So those are my consistents right now. I do little side projects and things. Currently, things like anthologies and such, I try and stay away from, just so I'm not pulling away from my writing goals. But that is it for now.
Okay. So you don't have any projects, books that you have started writing and they're sitting on your hard drive and you're thinking, I need to look at them. Guilty as charged.
You're calling me out. Okay. Now, when you put it that way, yes, I do. There is actually one that I'm itching to get back to, and I'm showing a lot of restraint by focusing on Token. But it is my first book in my witch series, which I'm so very excited about because of the themes in it as well. So that one I will be writing on the side when I get time, when I have breaks between my 3-month turnover. I will be finishing that one. I'm about 70,000 words in that. Got about another 30,000 words, I think, to finish it. That one I'm actually going to pitch to agents. I'm going to see how it goes. There's a very specific agent I want to try. I'm an absolute advocate for authors such as Lee Verdugo. She writes darker, so I would love to be represented by the same agent as her. Yeah. And it's mostly just putting myself out there just to see where my work sits, because obviously an agent picks it up if they think it's marketable, and if they don't, that's fine, because I can market it myself. So if that doesn't, I'll give that about 3 to 6 months pitching it. If nobody wants to take it up, then I'll release that next year. And I do have another one as well, which again I am pitching to agents, just because it's not a book I would usually write. It is kind of like a Sex in the City cross Scotland. So it's nothing I've really written or published before. And quite honestly, although I could do the research on how to market it correctly, I feel like it would be better suited for a more traditional publisher while I focus on branding myself as a dark fantasy author. So that is on the side as well. That's being pitched out at the moment.
Okay. So if you were to get an agent with the Sex and the City-ish type book, do you think that she would be using a pen name, or would you be sticking with your name, or what would that look like for you?
See, I did ask myself this question because for me it's always been important wanting to use my name. I'm proud of the works that I do. But then I did think about it realistically, and especially when traditional publishers do take you on, that to be able to sell X amount of books in bookstores, etc., you need basically a clean slate so they can do it correctly. So I guess then I wouldn't be so against, as long as it is still very similar to my name. That way that readership can find me very easily with my previous catalogue. So I would try to stick with my name, but I would be willing to compromise as well.
Okay. I think that's something that sometimes we as authors, we kind of overlook is that idea of compromise. I know pen names are one of those things that there's so many different thought processes on, so many different opinions. I have 3 different pen names, so it's like, okay, which one am I today? Do you think that you would completely step outside of your comfort zone and maybe write something that is just, not anything that you've ever tried before, like a murder mystery or a suspense or something along those, something outside of your comfort zone?
Yeah, absolutely. The funny thing is I actually have about another 40 books to write, and those are plots I've already set out, and not all of them are within the genre that I have. And the same thing, like I started off as young adult. Young adult isn't far stretch for writing that fantasy and then darkening it as I get older. But I've written things like contemporary romance and erotica as well, and that was more so for me to push to see if I could write in those genres.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be too far of a stretch for me. I think I would stay away from subject matters that need to be more technical, because if I don't feel confident that I could execute them well, I probably wouldn't do that, because I don't think I could give it justice. But I definitely would try different genres, because I don't know, it's challenging as a writer as well to step into something completely new, and I find that exciting.
I would agree. I think that's the fun part, is stepping outside of your comfort zone and really diving in. Now, I started off writing historical romances, as you know, and then I started doing paranormal. Now I'm doing contemporary romantic, contemporary suspense, and now I've gone back to my historicals. And I think the one thing that I know that I've learned over the course of the last few years with all of these different genres is that there's bleed over. Like my paranormals, 98% of them are set in a historical setting, or like a medieval or ancient world type setting. And then, the contemporary ones are usually small towns, stuff that I'm familiar with. Do you find that when you're writing in other genres, in multiple genres, do you actually find that you're getting that same transition or carry through from one genre to the next?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel it was interesting doing so a lot of, when you read my books, a lot of them, obviously you're in fantasy worlds, but I guess you could think of more so like, I don't know, like a medieval sort of type. It's not very modern. There's not like electricity running everywhere. Like it does really focus on paranormal creatures per se and the societies that they build. So, and then going into, so I have an Angel and Demon series, and that's in a futuristic city. So that was a little bit interesting creating that, but it still came back to the primal nature. I guess, they've got swords and they've got I went back to that very sort of primitive nature, I guess. And I think that's always in there, except for when I cross over into contemporary romance, because nobody in a contemporary romance is carrying around knives and daggers and things like that. So, but That one was fun for me because I hadn't yet been to New York. That's my escort series, and I wrote a small series set in New York, and it was just about a workaholic woman who obviously was looking to open up her heart and fall in love again. So, you know, I liked the difference in that, and I think the crossover in all of my books is always just strong leading women. So, yeah, I would absolutely agree that they bleed over to some degree.
So when you're writing, now you said that you're trying to stay away from anthologies, but do you do anything other than a full length novel? Because with the Token series, I think those are all full length. And I was looking on your website, and I didn't really see anything that was like a novella length or anything under 40K. So, but have you written anything that's kind of shorter? And if so, what was the challenge in doing so?
Yeah, so my escort series, they're all about the 40K mark, so very quick pace. I like fast action, and that's me as a reader as well. And then also my erotica was the same thing. And I actually do have one called Mad Hatter Vampire Prince. That came out last year, and that is what's the word I'm looking for? I've forgotten. It's based on the Token Huntress series, but previously. I can't think of the word.
Like a prequel?
Yeah, there we are, prequel. I've gone blank. It was a prequel to it, and that as well is 40K. So I definitely, if it's just I do find challenges in having a shorter story, because if I have this elaborate great world and a lot of pacing to happen in character development, I do find that difficult to do in a shorter time frame, or a shorter word count, should I say. So yeah.
Short is not our friend sometimes at all. So what if you could picture any outcome, and if someone were to say, hey, I pick one book out of everything that you have written and we want to make a movie out of it, what book would it be?
Why would you do that to me?
Because I'm evil.
Honestly, I'm like, So it's hard because all of them can and will be movies and TV series. So how do you choose which one goes first? It's a biggie. So I'm kind of torn between. I did have one of my books, the Shadowmine's Journal, once got picked up and looked over by a film company, which was awesome. Obviously, it didn't go through, but even having the consideration is amazing. And that one, I could see, that's one with a futuristic city. The main character shifts into 7 different demons, and it is quite dark but badass at the same time. That would be pretty cool. But there also is one that I haven't yet started writing, and when I had, again, this came from a dream. When I had this dream, I said I will not write this until a couple of years, until I was certain that my writing was to a degree where I was like, it's time. And in that dream, when a particular scene was happening, it was really weird because I was sitting back like as if I was a director, and I was sketching as this scene was playing out, and I looked, my sister was behind me, and I looked and said, see, Jasmine, this is the one that's going to be the movie. And so I don't know, I've kind of like stuck with that since. I'm like, maybe that'll be it. So
well, maybe you just won't write it as a book, maybe you'll write it as a screenplay, and then there you go.
Yes, you can teach me how to screenwrite, and we will. Yes, I like that.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and we can. Oh, there's so many ways you can do that. What's your next goal? Like, I mean, you have done absolutely amazing with your career up to this point. You've got a lot of books out, a lot of really great books out. You've kind of refreshed a couple and are re-releasing a couple of your series. So what's next? What's the next big goal for you?
Oh, so many. Right now for me is consistency, because I did for about a year and a half when I was living in Edinburgh. I took some me time after the last burnout. So right now I've re-established myself in the last year as how I can work with this consistently. And what that also includes is finishing off the series that I'd started, because I did at the start of my career get distracted by all the shiny new book series, and it's like the smartest thing to do. So this year and next year is basically focused on completing those series and then moving forward with new series. So right now it's about realistically my growth as a writer and as an author, and just building my platform more and more, because I've built a lot more confidence as well, I want to say, after the last 2 years, and I can be proud of what I've accomplished and say I've succeeded and I've done well, and now I get to do this full time, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And I can keep growing and growing from that. So honestly, it is. I want to hit $100,000 a month. Like, I want to do outrageous things. I want to have goals like that, because why not? Why not see how far I can take this? So I think that's what I'm focusing on the moment, is how far can I push this? How big of an empire can I build this? Basically, that's where I'm at.
That is absolutely fantastic, and I think you're right. You're well on the way to doing that. I think the key to doing that, honestly, is that you have that vision and you are reverse engineering it. It's not, you're not going into it with small goals. If you're going to shoot for something, don't shoot for the moon. Shoot for Mars.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to do it. Honestly, I think you're going to do it. And it's going to be fantastic. Don't forget me when you get there, though.
We'll get there together.
So you tend to write a more of a darker, edgier story, which is fantastic, because honestly, the one that I've just released, the Chains of Rum, is dark. It is. It's dark. It's gritty. It's brutal. I had my beta readers, my critique partners, almost in tears at some points. So I get it. I love writing, those stories that just kind of grab you by the throat and just, they don't let go. You're struggling for breath at the same time, but you want to keep turning that page, but you don't want it to end. And I think that's a huge part of how you write, from what I've read of your stuff. Do you think, as you're writing, do you worry about how your reader base is going to interpret your work, or if you're going to have a negative impact or a negative feedback from your author, your readers?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And I say that only because I started off as a young adult writer. So, and I do keep mindful that a lot of the, and obviously people of all ages read that, but I do keep mindful that my audience does have a younger audience involved as well. So some of the topics and subjects that I'm writing aren't PG friendly. But that's how the writing is, that's how the story is. And speaking of like writing dark, I enjoy it because I feel like you delve into somebody's complexity, like how they function a lot more, what traumas and triggers really spark them into the next stage. And so that stuff I think isn't so bad, because I can smoothly explain that to the reader as to how they're like going down into that spiral. What I do worry about is the environment I sometimes have to build around it for those things to happen, because some of it can be a little bit scary. And even like I have written particular scenes and I'm like, oh, it's a bit, it would not be something I would enjoy reading if I was surprised by it, but it's true to that particular character's story, so it has to go in. So I do wonder sometimes if it's a little bit too much, but then also I understand that the reader base that I have, they know they're often going in not knowing what to expect, because I do have a lot of twists and turns, and it's not always happily ever after. So for me, maybe for a new reader who hasn't read my stuff, it might be quite shocking in some aspects.
Yeah. So when how do you deal with that? I mean, do you put content warnings? Do you put trigger warnings? Do you put, neon signs of, contains scenes of extreme violence, gore, et cetera, in your blurbs or on your books? Or, is that something that is just kind of sort of implied?
A bit of both. I did query this because there was a scene in my Token Huntress series that was particularly vulgar, and so I did wonder, for those who might have read it, it could have been perhaps slightly trigger. But also, I danced around it so lightly as well that it was implied it had happened, but there was no detail in it. So I didn't put a warning on that book because I think the only time when something is super trigger is when they're being dragged back into that moment of whatever it might have been that had hurt them personally. So when I do think it is very raw topics, I will dance around it lightly and only have that it's implied. So you're not really being pulled into it, you're kind of skipping over it, but you're aware that something has happened in this situation that wasn't good. Because I don't want to have to ever put a warning or a trigger or something on my books, because I don't consider myself as that kind of writer. Like, that isn't the focus of what my writing is. So no, I haven't. I hope I don't have to.
It would be nice, and that's one of the things that I found as a hybrid author is when it comes to my books, my publishers, when I'm filling out the paperwork, the metadata and all that stuff for them, there's always a space for warnings, etc., to go in there, and I always fill it out because I've had feedback from I actually had feedback from a reader that said, yeah, I couldn't read this, it was too violent. And I'm thinking, too violent? There was only a sword fight in it. What are you talking about? But then I kind of stepped back and I went, oh, yeah, maybe. Okay, yeah, it's not fluffy and sweet, and so sometimes that can be a huge impact as well, as in that feedback. Kudos to you. I honestly, I have mad respect, because I always worry about that. I always worry about whether I should put, a warning on there, because readers are getting more, they're getting more specific. They're getting more, they're finer tuned, so to speak, nowadays. So once you've got the next two series done, the two that you're working on over the next couple of years, what's the game plan? What's the next series, or are you going to be doing some standalones, or do you think you're going to dive into a new series?
Yeah, so definitely standalones aren't usually my thing. I am considering, though, doing a couple of contemporary romances on the side just to help break up, when I'm going into these complex worlds and creating like fantasy worlds, maybe something a little bit lighter, easier to write on the side, just to clear out the brain. Yeah. But it is for the following year. I do have particular goals, which is finishing off the Shadowmine's journal series, which I'm super excited about, because that has been one that I absolutely loved. I'm super excited to finish. And the same goes with Mad Hatter Vampire Prince and my erotica series. That one I will actually be re-releasing, more so as a steamy romance. I'm going to tame it back a little bit and finish the series, just because I did erotica as a challenge for myself, but honestly, and there are a lot of spicy scenes in my paranormal books, but I don't want to be known as an erotica author. And there's nothing against those who are erotica authors, but that's not how I'm rebranding myself. Steamy, yes. Outright erotica, no. And also, I find that when I talk to people and they ask what genres I write, they always cling on to erotica. It doesn't matter anything else that I've written. They're like, oh, you write erotica. And so I've just stopped telling people that, full stop now. And so, yeah, I'm going to change that one. But then after that, it will be just new series. And hopefully by then, the COVID situation will be at ease. So I'm wanting to do a lot of book tours and stuff, even if like personally organizing them myself. I love traveling anyway. So I do want to get back out there in front of readers. I'm itching for it. So I think I'll focus on that too.
Yes, there's a few things that are supposed to be coming up in the next year or two that I'm looking at, and I'm going, please let me attend. Please, I want to be there. So if if you had the chance to do a book tour, would you want to just stay locally? And then by locally, I mean within Australia, or would you like to do a global book tour, or what would that look like for you?
Yeah, global. 100%.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like, love you, Australia. Bye, Australia. But honestly, this is the longest I've been bunkered down in Australia for a long time. So I'm very excited to travel again, but I definitely want to do America as well. I did my first tour actually over there. I did a 3-week little tour over there, did signings and such. So I would love to do another one in the States, and then I do definitely want to try and do one in the UK and go back to Scotland as well. So yeah, it's just seeing what's out there as well for the bigger events also that have been organised, such as Rare and Babe and Books by Bridge, and I know there's a whole pile over in America as well. So I want to try and tee those up as well.
Yeah, I think they're organizing. They're doing up a couple of big ones here in Canada too. Canada gets kind of lost in the shuffle with some of the book tours, I think, which is really really weird because most of the Canadian authors have to go down to the States to do the book tours, like the big ones. So yeah, I'm excited because there's a couple big ones that are supposed to be coming to Canada. There's actually one that they were hoping to do this year in Toronto, but they might have to wait till next year depending on the COVID situation, which kind of sucks, but that gives me a year to save up for it.
We'll have to know what one that is, so then I can sign up and we can sign together.
Yes, we will have to do that. I will keep you posted on that one because it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. And it's going to be nice because I know that there's a couple of Canadian authors that I'm hoping that they're there, because then if they're there, then they'll be able to showcase the covers that I did for them, which will be absolutely awesome. That would be so much fun.
Exciting.
Yeah, it would be really exciting. And this is kind of an oddball question, but what's the biggest drawback for you as an author compared to if you were looking at the whole picture from as a new author coming into it, what would be the one thing you would maybe be the most uncomfortable with?
Oh, that's a good one. It's a hard one to answer because I've learned to put myself in uncomfortable situations in this career, and just more so in things that I don't know about. I knew nothing about marketing prior to coming in. I'm certainly an extrovert, so I like none of that phases me either. Drawback. I want to say perhaps more so because obviously in this we can always learn more. And I know there's particular things that I don't know, like when it comes to adapting to screenwriting, or perhaps how to perfectly promote, do PR and things like that myself. So perhaps those are my drawbacks. I've learned how to promote on social media and, how to engage with readers, but I guess perhaps in a more professional light, there's certainly things that I'm lacking because I don't know that I need to have them yet. And I certainly don't know how to write a press release. I don't know how to send that to bookshops and to libraries. So I would like to learn more of that. Obviously, up until this point, I've hired professionals for it, but I would definitely love to learn them. So there's still so much to learn. So that's probably my biggest drawback, is there's still things I don't know.
Yep, I would agree. And you can know something, but it doesn't necessarily knowing it help you apply it to marketing your books, your personality, your brand. When you've talked about rebranding, and this kind of falls into that marketing PR niche. So you've spoken about rebranding yourself. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for you to rebrand yourself and your books?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, finance. I don't think a lot of people realize how expensive it is to write and publish books, let alone once you've already published them, but then you're basically revamping it all. And so because now I'm at a point too where I want better quality for them, you pay more for that as well. So I think right now it is going at a slower pace, so then I'm not going out of my financial budget, because I could just blow all my money at once, but then that's a risk at the same time. So I'm going to say, honestly, financially, probably is just financially. I don't know if that's a good answer.
No, that's actually a really good answer. I think, because I think we forget. We forget the costs that are associated with publishing. I was reading a thread there on social media not that long ago. They were talking about how much it costs to publish a book, and it's funny because it's free. Well, it's not free. It costs. You've got your cover costs, you've got your editing, you've got if you have to pay for your ISBNs, you've got your ads and your marketing and your websites. So did you, when you first started, and you had to learn all of these things, how much of a struggle was it for you to actually learn how to budget for your business, for your brand, for your books?
So much. I had no idea what I was doing, and so I think at the time I've always been quite fortunate, should I say, that because I am a workaholic, I've always been financially secure because I've always had 2 or 3 jobs on the go, and so I always had money in the bank. But the problem was that I was throwing it, basically like throwing cash, throwing pasta, hoping it would stick to the wall, because at that point I didn't understand what having a business plan was. So I was just hoping that something could be that spike to make me an overnight success. So I was just throwing cash about. And it hasn't been probably until I came back to Australia last year that I actually sat down and I really properly budgeted, how much is my website? How much is this? How much is that? And I'm just like, oh, this like really adds up. I'd always been very messy, I want to say, in regards to that, because I was fortunate enough to have financial security, and it's no different now, but now I'm just doing it a lot more smarter. I feel like I'm a lot more in control with it because I have a plan to go along with it. So that's why I'm not just throwing cash like I used to. I'm doing it slowly, I'm doing it properly, and I'm doing it within my control. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. So did you, if an author came to you, a new author came to you and said, hey, look, this is where I'm at, would you say that it's advisable, or it's a good idea to sit down and actually come up with a business plan and a marketing plan? If your intention, your goal is to make money, to be successful and have a steady income from your books, have that business plan, have that marketing plan in place, as opposed to just flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah. But yeah, if this is a long-term career goal for you, absolutely, you need to. And I think, this is a difference too between my inexperience and my lack of maturity as well. I was young when I started, so I didn't have much money sense and such around me initially. But you do need these plans. And I think too, one thing that has really been inspiring me, as I said, I do weekly interviews with other authors such as yourself, and hearing their journey and kind of learning bits and pieces along the way, and more like all of them have had a business structure when they've gone into it, or there was a point where they realized that it was a business. That's when it really changed for them. It wasn't. And the thing is too, is, maybe the first or second book, people on the outside, your readers won't be able to tell you're scattered. When you start getting a lineup, the 5th book I'm writing now is my 20th book. So when you start getting a lineup of a lot of books, people are going to start noticing the inconsistency. As we said with brand and such before, they're going to notice the inconsistency. That's why you need a plan. So I would highly recommend it, because as soon as you get past about book 5, people will start noticing.
Yes. I think out of everything that I have learned in the last 13, almost 14 years being in this industry, I think for me, consistency is the key. Is, and understanding that when you sit down and you go, and I've had this conversation with a number of authors, and we've had that conversation, and it's like, and one of the things that I ask them is, what's your end goal? Well, if they don't know what that end goal is, then it really does affect how they focus, how they put their consistent effort into it. And I think that's a huge part. And I think, just watching your growth and watching how you've done things, there's a certain consistency, a certain level of professionalism. It's not a hobby by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I mean, you can tell when you've got as many books as you do, you can tell that it's definitely not a hobby. It's more, it is a business. You approach it as a business. Do you have set work hours? Like, do you get up in the morning and you go, okay, well, I'm gonna have my coffee, my breakfast, I'm gonna go for a jog, and then from 9 to 5, books are the only thing that I'm doing. I'm doing my writing, I'm doing my promo, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, strictly around my books. And then, 5 o'clock rolls around and you go, okay, I'm clocking out. That's the end of my day. Or is your structure a little different?
Yes and no. So right now, especially, it's a little bit all over the place, and that's only because I am a little bit behind. I got about 3 weeks ago, I had a kidney infection, so I got really, really sick. So right now I'm playing catch up. But usually what my day to day would look like, I actually prioritize the first probably 3 hours on me. So I'll wake up, I'll write in my journal, have my coffee, I'll go to the gym for an hour, come back, walk the dog, have a good breakfast, because that is important to me, like having a healthy mindset and healthy body. I think that's probably one of the things that I've learned over the years to, as we said, not being a workaholic, etc. And then, after that, it's game on. So it is my goal. So usually I'm sitting down by about 8:39. I usually wake up at about 5. And then it is wanting to write 5K every day, 5,000 words, 5 days a week. So, that's 25,000 words in a week. That's pretty good. After about 1 month to 6 weeks, that's a book right there. But then there also are other things. So I just is that your dog? Scratching dog. I do try one thing I've learned too is to prioritize my writing. I often was getting distracted. This needs to be done, marketing, this needs to be done, there's always things to be done. I've just learned to prioritize now. But if I am having a bit of an off day where the writing isn't coming as quickly or it's feeling a bit rigid, I will set it aside and I will do something else, because I'm like, okay, today is not the day to write. I just listen to the muse and body, I think. So, usually I work 5-6 days a week, but I work for myself. So it is a luxury. If I want to have something on or do something on a Wednesday, I can shift it around, but consistency is key as well. So I do try to keep to that structure.
That makes sense. So do you find now with the way that COVID is, do you find that it's easier for you to maintain that structure that you have, or do you find it to be more of a challenge?
So for me personally, better, only because, before COVID, I was living in Edinburgh, Scotland. I was living a very different life to what I'm living now. So it was quite challenging, I guess, to transition, because I really enjoyed my social circle and my life. I was having the best time ever. And then I came back, and obviously I didn't know what was happening with COVID. Now we know. And I'm glad I came back, but I was sort of kind of a bit shocked, because I was like, what do I do now? I'd given up, I didn't have my house anymore. I didn't have my job anymore. I was basically starting from scratch in a country that I'd already left. So it was quite, I just didn't know where I was. And I think it took me a couple of months to really go, okay, this is what I'm doing. And so I dare say I might have been almost a little bit begrudging towards my books, because I'd always loved them, but it felt like that was the only thing I had at the time. And so it was like as if I blamed them for leaving Scotland, even though this whole pandemic was happening around the situation. But now it's really good, because it's really been my anchor, and I've just focused on that for the last year. And now I'm really seeing the snowball effect and the results coming from that year. And I'm just, I guess, I'm in a better place now than obviously a lot of people had a lot of issues and still do from the COVID situation. So as it is for me now, it's really helped me set the tone for where I am now, quite honestly. And I'm writing full time, so it's been good for me.
I think for me too. I think that it's definitely given me a perspective on how to focus. Because I made some really hard choices in the last 5, 6, 7 months about my writing, and how to figure out, what I wanted. So I think that's huge too, having that opportunity to really say, hey, I need to really sit down and figure out what I want to do, how I want to do this, and having that opportunity, even if it's even in such a negative environment as the current situation is, having that opportunity, let's use it. Let's really wrap our heads around it, grab it with, dig the claws in and focus and do. So if, what would your advice be for someone who is looking to get into the industry, who is looking at really figuring out where they want to go, how they want to do things? What would you recommend their first steps be?
So they're writing, I'm assuming, in the industry, they want to be authors. Yep. Do it, but do it smart. And I say that because I see all the time so many new authors, and this is because I do it myself as well. You get so excited, and as you should, you're writing, publishing, and you're doing all these things. But you'll find when you look back, you've also made a lot of mistakes and that's how everyone learns. But make sure you're doing your research before you do those steps, because there were a lot of steps that I had missed. There are a lot of steps that other people miss. So just really follow your favorite authors, see what they're doing, how are they promoting, how often are they writing, how often are they publishing, really think about creating a business plan before you even release your first book, because I can guarantee it will help you. If you're promoting your book 3 to 6 months prior to actually releasing it, just boom, here it is, you're going to learn the hard way that if you have those 3 to 6 months, it might seem tedious at the time, but you'll have readers at the end. If you just release it straight away and expect something to happen, as did I, you're going to learn that it doesn't work that way. And so then you're really going to have to put in hard work. And that's the other thing. If you are committed to making this a career and making this full time, you will have to work hard. And that's not an understatement. And a lot of people, I think, get to a point in their career where they're shocked because they're still going, like they're still chasing, they're still running and running. They're like, why doesn't this stop? Because it doesn't. The environment, the marketing, everything keeps changing. Yeah. You need to be adaptable and you need to be willing to work hard because it is so rewarding. You just need to make sure that you're committed to this industry and to this path. And if you are, it's going to be very rewarding for you. So work hard, believe in yourself, and network with other authors. We're all friends.
Yeah, exactly. And understand it's not your regular 9-to-5 job.
Yes. Yes.
It's more of a 9 to 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you get up, you go to bed, and you get up at 6 o'clock again.
And there will be many a times when you're waking up at weird times, or you're doing whether it's interviews or watching a seminar or something, you will the time difference, because you will realize how connected we are in the world when you start doing this. So yeah, goodbye sleep. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Sleep. What is that? And this interview is a prime example because I'm in Canada and you were in Australia. So yes. We're across the globe here, and we're doing this interview, and it's amazing how connected we are, and how you need to you really need to understand, if you're in this industry, you need to understand another author is not your competitor, and I think that's huge. I see this all the time, this author's doing really good, but I'm not. Well, what are they doing? Follow them, watch them, study what they're doing, see if it applies to you. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but I think that's another part of this industry is we really need to understand we're not competition. There's how many billions of people in the world, and how many of those read books? Probably a lot.
I would hope so.
Exactly. So I think if we look at it as, the author next to us, or surround ourselves with positive energy and positive authors, that really does go a huge way to helping get that footprint into the industry. And avoiding the toxicity of authors who, they're very negative. I just feel like, if you're that discouraged, you take a step back, you take a deep breath, and take a step back and reassess. I don't know if that's been your experience or not, but
yeah. So I completely agree with that 120%. And I talk about this often, and it's find your people. It's just like I enjoy putting myself around positive people who are willing to work hard, and people that are honest with me. I'll show them drafts of covers and they'll be like, that one, no. I'll be like, okay, my heart's broken, but sure. But there are also people who, like, in any community or in any, let's say high school, there will be a group that isn't so great, or they might like people, or they, more of a negative aspect. If that's your people, then you'll gravitate towards that people, but I can guarantee you it's not your people. So find people who are happy to build together. This isn't a competition. We're all on our own journey, our individual journey, and there is no point in comparing to, like, if I were to compare myself to somebody who's been doing this for 20 years, why would I expect the same results? I'm just at the still baby author 5-6 year mark. There's no point in comparing, and it will always be different results because you will execute things differently. So that's what makes this so exciting. I don't feel like there's a need to compete with anyone, because you're just challenging yourself. That should be the only goal.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. I am looking forward to our next chat, which hopefully will be very soon. I can't believe that we have been chatting for an hour. Any final thoughts? Any final suggestions? Tell us how to get the pre-order for your book. If it's a pre-order, give us all of the insight and the details. And
amazing. Well, you can find me on most social medias. So just under my name, Kia Carrington-Russell, for Facebook, website. If you are looking at Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok recently, you will look at the handle at Kia, KIA_Crystal, CRYSTAL. And also, if you want to get in touch, just send me a DM or a message. Where to find my books? I am exclusive at the moment with Kindle Unlimited. So you will obviously find information about my books on my website, but just hop on Amazon as well. But yeah, send me a message if you have any questions. And also, if you are serious about getting in this industry, go for it and give it 120%, because you will not regret it. And start networking, and you can start with me. Send me a message, and if you have any questions, let's do it.
Sweet. Newsletter. Do you have a newsletter that they can sign up for?
We do. So hop on again on my website, and you'll be able to find the link on there and just subscribe. I do send out at the moment. I am doing, and this is new, I'm doing weekly updates basically on what's happening, what's new. So the last one I sent out was about how I made my sister's video go viral on TikTok. That was an accident, but yeah, so just weird, quirky things, but that's who I am. So I hope you enjoy it.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you so very much for joining us today and this evening. Good luck on the upcoming release. Do you have any takeovers, any release party planned or anything like that?
Yeah, I have a lot. I did book a fair few around the date of the release because I'm super excited. So I do have primarily my main one, which is just Token Phantom Facebook release party, which is the one that I'm creating. There's 2 days, it goes from the 4th to the 6th, 2 days of author lineups. And there's some awesome authors on there, and I love them to bits. So we'll have heaps of games and giveaways. I do have at the moment a $10 Amazon gift card up for grabs. All you have to do is tag 2 friends in there. And there'll also be, of course, paperback giveaways of the collection with the new covers. So that's exciting. And if you want to find out what other takeovers I'll be doing, primarily on Facebook around that week, it's coming up on my personal Facebook group where all my readers are in. So that is the Journals of Kia Carrington-Russell, and you'll be able to see the lists and the links of where I'll be and at what time.
Awesome. Sounds fantastic. I cannot wait. I will definitely be there with bells on, as long as I am not knee deep in edits or something.
We can do both at the same time. It's fine. Just keep switching over.
I can. Because Chains of Rome just came out for pre-order, and then I've got under my pen name Elise Wiles. I've got a release coming out in the end of May as well. So I'm going to be busy for the next little while, but I will definitely try and book some time to pop into those takeovers and support you as well. So awesome, awesome. So everyone, thank you so very much for joining us. It's greatly appreciated. The video will be left up for a little while, and then I'll be leaving it up anyways. But if you have any questions or you want to get a hold of Kia, I'll have a link for her in the description box once the video goes archived. And then we will go from there, and I look forward to seeing the next book in the series and seeing the completion of the series and seeing what else you've got on the go.
Amazing. And likewise, keep in touch.
Will do. Thank you so much. Sam says bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Just hang on 2 seconds here. I'm hoping this does not end as I want to end the broadcast